Hey everyone. Yeah, I know I'm doing this review a little bit early, but the thing is I'm gonna be a little bit busy tomorrow. So rather than wait for the official Shonen Jump release, I figured, you know what, I'm just gonna go for an unofficial release, and then tomorrow all I have to deal with is the anime review. So yeah, that's kind of the reason why. Okay. So big thing with this chapter though is it pretty much sets the stage for what we would come to know as the final climactic battle on God Valley between Roger, Garp, and Rox. Of course, with Emu being on the island as well, the ultimate tragedy of the whole thing is very much revealed in this chapter. That even though it hasn't happened yet, you can see how this is going to play out. With Emu taking control of Rocks, he's very likely going to kill his. He's going to very likely kill his wife, with of course Teach somehow escaping. Now, there are a couple of things with this setup that have piqued my curiosity. The first is that naturally, we know now that Rocks is very likely to kill his own wife. That's pretty much in the cards. My big question at that point is how Teach escaped, because I can't lie, I'm kind of on this weird stretch of thinking Garp might assist in that in some way after killing Rocks, which, given what we know about his decision later on to adopt Base, it would kind of fit and really show how much the Monkey family are kind of responsible for giving rise to basically the events as they are today, and especially helping with certain key figures in that in the events of today's world as well, like with Teach and with Shanks. The other question though I have is under what circumstances Roger and Garp kill Rocks now, because knowing all the work that Oda has done into giving us a true sense of Rox's character, I feel like what's going to happen here is Rox is going to regain his consciousness from Emu's control after killing his wife just long enough for him to ask for Rox to ask them to kill him. Like after all the after all, it feels like with Rox he's very much going to turn to Roger, turn to Garb, say I'm a monster. Please just do away with me, please. I don't want to I've already killed my wife. I don't want to kill my son. Like after all we've seen from Rox, he feels like the kind of person who would kind of rather die than kill his own son. So it just feels like that's kind of how this is meant to play out now. This chapter, of course, this chapter also made it abundantly clear that any notion of Emu being human has been completely thrown out the window. Like whatever Emu was before, whether he was a human or not, whether he was once Lili Nefertari or not, Emu is quite literally a monster at this point. Hell, maybe it's even more appropriate to call Emu a parasite, because the way it looked like Emu was attaching itself to Saturn and practically leeching off of him, like there's some kind of symbiotic relationship there, like for absolutely certain. Even what we know, like with Emu having taken away Saturn's powers after the whole egghead incident, there is definitely some kind of symbiotic relationship where they almost feed off, where they feed off each other in some way. In saying that, this chapter also showcases the circumstances by which Shanks ends up as a treasure chest baby, you could say. And when you get down to it, even though Dragon had saved him in a fashion, it was in a lot of ways still by pure chance that saved Shanks' life from becoming like the rest of his family. As if Dragon had succeeded in turning Shanks into the Navy along with Shamrock, he would have become like the rest of them. Shanks wouldn't have become the man we know today. Or maybe he would have eventually gotten to that point, but it might not have been instantaneous or immediate either. There would have, even if Shanks grew with the moral center and code that he did, I think that there still would have been, his escape from his family wouldn't have been immediate, I think. I also want to talk about Garp as well, because if this chapter proved anything to me, it's how much being part of the Navy was still unable to restrain Garp's will of D. Like you see it, you see in this chapter itself, in this chapter, the moment Garp laid eyes on Emu, you could just see that visceral desire to oppose God had awakened within him, and ever since like this incident, I think that eternal struggle between his duty and his instincts just kept growing more and more difficult to control, especially if we're looking at some of Garp's feats throughout the series, and even more so, even more than any of that though, I think one thing this whole God Valley incident instilled in him is that sense of belief that it gave him the experiences and to really know that the kind of power that Emu possesses, and I think I think it really I think it really did fuel the driving force behind why Garp wanted Luffy to join the Navy, because even more than wanting to prevent him from walking the same path as Dragon, I think Garp also knew Luffy would be hunted by Emu if he became a pirate. So in his mind, becoming a Navy officer would have offered him some manner of some form of protection, which he doesn't have. Which unfortunately, let's be real, he doesn't have as a pirate. Like Emu's going to hunt Luffy down, like all other those who carry the will of D. Emu is going to hunt Luffy down to basically the ends of the earth. But at the same time, at this juncture, with Luffy taking on the mantle of Nika, it's that kind of it's that kind of thing is almost really a moot point. Like it's still going to happen regardless. Um, with all that with all that said, this chapter does something interesting, shall we say, which is that it gives us a look into the past of who owned certain devil fruits before their present-day accusers. So before Kid obtained the power of the Magnet Fruit, it was Captain John who had control over that power. Or before Mr. Five had the power of the Bomb Fruit, it was wielded by Guan Zi, and I do gotta say, the latter reveal is definitely one of those things that makes me believe something Classic Man D said recently, which is that the Bomb Fruit is a devil fruit that had the greatest potential, but simultaneously had some of the most scuffed users imaginable. Like we all know how much of a hack number five turned into, and although a tier better than him, when it comes to Guanzi, is like Guanzi is really just throwing his shit around at random. It feels like the weird thing about the Bomb fruit for me is it feels like the bomb. It's one of those devil fruits that is destined to have an eternally scuffed reputation by people not realizing the kind of potential this power has, and just being unable to figure out how to use it properly. And I guess you could say the same could also be said for the Magnet Fruit, but the one thing that does kind of save his reputation a little bit in my mind is some of the moves Kid was pulling on Big Mom during 1-0. Like for as scuffed as Kid could be at times during the time skip, he did come back with a bit of a vengeance during the 1-0 raid and his whole fight against Big Mom. Like that was one of those things that made me say, okay, okay, Kid, you've definitely got more of the sauce than I thought you did. And he definitely gave the Magnet Fruit a bit of a better reputation, I think you could say. Aside from that, there's not a whole lot more to say other than the one thing that was made most apparent throughout this chapter is just how powerful Emu truly is. Like, it took all of the then Rock's pirates, including Rock's himself, Roger, and Garp, to just land a solid enough hit on Emu, and even then, it didn't take long after that for Emu to reform. So like I said, Emu is a monster of the highest caliber, and moments like this just prove that Emu is definitely an aberration in this world. Whether it truly is a demon, a god, or whatever else it could be, like Emu is hiding its true nature extremely well behind the mask of godhood. And it's just a question of what is the source of all this power, although we still have yet to know. And I think unfortunately the answer to all these questions, it all lies in that connection of how Lily and the Nefertari are mixed up with Emu and all this, because whoever Emu is, the Nefertari are the piece in this puzzle on this board that are still the big mystery of just where they fit. Because the way Imu talks about he talks about creating his perfect world, talks about creating this perfect world, that kind of indicates there's a very specific reason he's afraid of the Will of D outside of its meaning and legacy. Like there's something very specific of the Will of D that makes Imu say, that makes Imu like want to destroy them all kind of thing. But even more so, I'm curious what the Devi clan as well have to do with this, because he seems to be focused on very specific factions of the D, of the Will of D for certain. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. On Blue Sky, Analyst Crunchyroll, make sure notification bell, hit the subscribe button, and just share it around, guys. Dark Knight, signing off. Later, everyone.